So now that you've made all the major changes to your essay, adding in more reflection, refining your scenes a bit more, rearranging anything as necessary, we can start to think about the smaller revision. So there's a lot of ways to proofread and edit your paper for errors, and I'm going to show you a few techniques. In order to expose yourself to more mistakes that you're making, try some of these steps. Number one, print it out. Studies have shown that proofreading on paper increases your accuracy and speed. I've tested this in some of my classes actually, and they almost always find more mistakes when they print out their paper than when they're looking on the computer. Second, read it out loud. This will help you focus more on each word since you have to say them in order to read them. This also helps you think about punctuation, because normally when we're talking out loud we have a pause. Well, if you pause and you look and you see there's no comma or period, then you have to start to think about whether or not there should be. Third technique, this sounds weird, but read it backwards. So start with your last sentence, read that sentence normally, then read the second to the last sentence, and go on through the whole essay, reading each sentence as its own. This way your brain isn't connecting everything like it normally does in a paragraph. You're looking at each sentence as its own little entity, and maybe you'll be able to identify whether or not it's a complete sentence, whether or not a word's out of place, much more easily than if you're just reading like normal. Fourth, don't just read through. Have a specific goal. So maybe for this round of proofreading, I'm going to look just for sentence fragments and run-ons. Then when I read it through again, I'll look for word typos. Maybe the next time I'll look through just thinking about the way it sounds, and whether or not I should change words around. Think of a few different things you want to be looking for and go through only for that one at a time. Get some more eyes. Not like in jars, but have someone else read it. Your family, your friends, classmates. And finally, my last suggestion is use a word cloud generator. What's that? I'm gonna tell you. So there's a lot of different of these sites out there. I just picked this one because it worked on my computer. Sometimes my Java doesn't work. So here it is. It's called Word It Out. This is the main page. At the top here, there'll be a create button. When you hit that create button, it'll bring up this text box. I typed in paste text here. It's not normally there. So anyway, you'll copy and paste all of the text from your essay. When you're ready, you'll hit generate. So what it's going to do is take all the words in your essay and make a word cloud that shows the most common used words in the largest type. If it doesn't seem like it's doing that for some reason, you might have to fix the settings. If you go over to the left in the column there, it says word list. There'll be one for the most common. If you don't like the way it looks, you can go up to the regenerate button, the blue button on the left, and it'll change the font, the colors, the style. I like to use this to help you find what I'm going to call your danger words. Sometimes some of us have words that we use too much, maybe all the time or just in a specific essay. And then sometimes these words are just so general and empty that they can get more specific. For example, like the word get is a good example. Instead of saying something like, when I get up in the morning, I get out of bed and get on my clothes before getting breakfast, I could change out those words to something like, when I awake in the morning, I ease out of bed and slip on my clothes before enjoying breakfast. Now, this kind of comes back to our discussion about using suggestive language. Now I've made it sound much more peaceful and enjoyable, whereas the word get just is so general, I don't really necessarily give an impression to the reader. So what you can do is maybe pick the top 4 or 5 largest words in your essay. This person's going to write down mom, like, think, and always. Then you can go back to your essay in Word or Google Docs and hit the Control and F key, and a find box will come up. And then you can type in one of those words. So let's say this person typed in the word mom, and they can see they've used the word mom 8 times in the essay, which isn't really that much. But if you look at the first paragraph, you see they use it 4 times in that small amount of space. So now they can think about whether or not they need all those moms. One way to avoid the repetition is to replace it with synonyms. You don't want to get too crazy though. If you never say the word mama or mum, you wouldn't want to replace it with that. You don't want to sound out of place or strange. But if you can't think of a way to do it, then maybe the best way is to use a pronoun or to just take it out altogether. They could change the mom in the second sentence to her. In that third sentence, they could just cross out the use of mom. They don't need it. We know they're talking about the mom by that time. So for 3 points extra credit, if you'd like, you could go to the site, do a word cloud of your narrative essay that you're turning in for Tuesday, and find the top 3 common words, and then go through and see, can you replace or eliminate any of them in your essay? Then send me a message, email or text is fine, that lists your 3 danger words and explains what you did to replace or eliminate them. You don't have to send the word cloud, just your list and explanation of how you fixed it. Before I move on, just another quick tip. The find feature is also a good way to look for mistakes you know you always make. For example, if I'm someone who always forgets to capitalize the letter I in my writing, I could go through a search just for the I's. That way I don't have to read looking for the I's, it just highlights them for me. The trick though is make sure you put a space before and after the I, so it's just looking for the I, not any word with the letter in it. Finally, once you feel good about everything, then you can put your paper in the correct format. If you don't know MLA format, you can go to page 146 in our handbook, and it lists everything you need to think about. And then if you go to page 149, it shows you a picture. Things to keep a lookout for are the information at the top left. It goes your name, my name, which you can just write out as Cynthia Brandon-Slocum, the class, and the date. And then in the header at the top right is going to be your last name and the page number. One thing to remember, people run into this issue a lot, is when you're adding in your page number, you want to go to insert page number or insert header page number. You don't want to just click on it and type in the number 1 or 2, because whatever you put in that header is going to repeat on each page. So if you type in a 1 will be on each page. So you want to insert, and then it'll create the numbers for you. Then you can just type in your last name next to that. That's the only thing that goes into the header, not your name or the information on the left. That just goes at the top of the normal page because we only want it on the first page of your document. Also notice it's double spaced and that there aren't any extra spaces in between the paragraphs. Sometimes Microsoft Word loves to add an extra space between them. Finally, that title that you took all that time to think of, notice how it's not any different than the rest of the text. So don't bold it, don't underline it, or make it larger, or make it a certain color. It just looks exactly the same, and it's in the center, and it's spaced just like everything else. If you're having a hard time deciding what letters in your title to capitalize, here's a website that shows all this for you. MLA style has certain rules, as does APA or Chicago Manual. And this website lets you click on which one you'd like to do. We're going to follow the Chicago Manual of Style because they have the same rules mostly as the MLA, whereas words like prepositions over 5 letters long still aren't capitalized. You can see the choices above that: capitalized words with 4 more letters, capitalized words with 5 more letters. Those aren't the rules for MLA, so we're going to click the bottom one. And then as you type in your title, it'll just correct the capitalization for you. So that's all for now. Before I let you go, I just want to remind you about the checklist, which is under the Essay 1 Information folder, which lists everything I'll be looking for. That's what I'm going to use to grade your paper. Each one isn't worth a certain amount of points. It's not a rubric, but it's just a general list of the things I'll be expecting.